everybody, welcome to the channel, or welcome back if you're returning. So today we're just going to be looking at an update of how my month is going for my March to April paycheck period. I hope everyone has been having a good time. It's been so nice when I've been checking budgeting videos because I know taxes work a little bit different in the US. A ton of American people are getting like their tax refunds and things at the moment. So for the debt payoff community, a lot of people have had a very good month and it's been so nice to watch. I just find it really positive how happy everyone is about it and like the progress, and they're so proud of themselves, and you should be proud of yourselves. So if that has happened to you, if you've had a good month or if you've just survived the month and didn't expect to, because cheers, some things have happened this month, then congratulations to you, and I hope you're seeing the progress you want. This month emotionally has been a little bit of a tough one. The priority of this month definitely was not me. So when I say tough for me, I realize it's comparative and I was secondary to what was going on. But one of my best friends unfortunately lost her father to cancer, and she was part of his end of life care because he didn't want to go into hospice. So the family were pooling their resources and going in and helping. So that was a really difficult situation for her, and I feel so bad for her. And also I had a friend of mine who lives here, who teaches with me, not with me as in day to day, but in the school with me. He went home to visit his partner and she took a turn for the worse and she passed. And it was all very sudden and very unexpected, and he's really dealing with the aftermath of that right now and just working on processing it, and they're arranging the funeral at the moment. So a tough month. I realize none of those are directly me, so I don't want to sound like, oh, it's all about me. Clearly, I'm the hardest off here. But it's a lot of quite heavy emotions, and I feel really bad for them, and so that's what we were dealing with this month so far. It's mainly been kind of the last couple of weeks. To drag it back to finances though, that does mean I didn't really feel like going out and partying, so spending was under control. But as I say, a few things went on. I mentioned taxes just then, and again, congratulations to anyone who's managed to make a nice chunk of progress this month with your tax refunds. Taxes work a little bit differently in the UK. So PAYE is pay as you earn. So if you're just a regular employed person who doesn't have income from other sources, then they will just take tax out your paycheck and you never have to file. Because I have payments coming from YouTube, it's secondary. I have to do something called self-assessment, which is basically when you say, hey, I have earnings you don't know about. Here is the information, please tax me on it, which is a little closer to what America does with their filings. But our timings appear to be very different. I'm assuming because a lot of people have their refunds now, that you guys have to file right now. I'm assuming you have to file before the end of the tax year. In the UK, you don't do that. You actually can't file until after the tax year is finished, because until the tax year is finished, how do you know what you're gonna earn? So on April 6th, which is obviously the beginning of the new tax year, then my ability to file should be activated, and I can put all my information in. When I put my information in last year, one thing they did was they estimated what taxes I would pay this year, and they made me put that money on account ready for this tax year. So when I paid the first payment, they also said, okay, we're splitting this in half and we're adding half more to what you owe us, so we can put it on account and it'll be waiting for you, because they take the payment the end of January and the end of July. Because another big difference in the UK, at least I think this is a difference, correct me if I'm wrong, is that once you've filed taxes, if you're filing online and not in paper, you have until the end of January the next year to pay those taxes. So what I'm going to be filing in the next few days won't be due until January 31st, 2024. So I have been putting money aside for taxes, but during the end of this tax year, I did earn a little bit more than I thought I was going to. So it does look like my taxes owed are going to be higher than I thought. Now, I was putting some tax money into a sinking fund. I'm not sure if it's going to cover it, but I do have time to save because I don't owe my taxes until the end of January. So I'll look at how much it ends up being once all my filing is done, and then I'll figure out a plan from there. Now, I mentioned when I set up my budget that I was going to be paying quite a large amount to national insurance because the deadline for paying back extended amount of years was closing. The window for it was closing. So I scraped around and I didn't put a lot of money into sinking funds at the beginning of this month because I was putting all the money towards there. And at the end of that, if you watched my budget with me for March, April, my expectation was I was going to run out of time. I wasn't going to get paid again. So I wasn't going to be able to pay the final 2 years. Now, things have been updated since then, and actually somebody in the comments alerted me to this, so I'm so sorry I forget your name off the top of my head, but thank you so much for that. HMRC seemed to be having some issues like processing all the payments in time because they had a lot of people call in because the scheme was ending. They hadn't finished processing all the payments, and they ended up putting an extension onto the final date, which means that you can pay those gaps up until the end of July. Now, on one hand, that is super exciting because it means the 2 years I had left, I can actually pay now, which is great. But that being said, on the other hand, I kind of had the issue where I had sort of made my peace with not paying those 2 years. And when I was planning out, okay, well, I'm taking money from these sources to pay off the big payment I did this month, I was expecting to then have the money to refill those things. And if I end up, I owe another, I think it's about 13 or 1400, something along those lines. It's 2 payments. Then I don't have the money to put into the other funds. Now, I do think that it's worth it. I think whatever I have to give up to do it is probably going to be worth it, because I'm going to lose the opportunity to do it soon and I'll regret it later, but it hurts a little bit. So out of my budget in the next paycheck, I'm going to have to pay that, I think it's $13.95 that I owe. So it's going to be quite a tight month again. Now, day to day, that doesn't really impact me because the variable spending I do on a monthly basis, like groceries and little funds and, home and whatever, I budget out before it goes home. So this affects my savings, not my spending, as it were. But one thing it probably is going to impact is my ability to travel this summer, because I have stretched and stretched and stretched how far my money could go. But the fact is, once I make the payment this month, that would have been about £4,000 in 2 months. And that money just has to come from somewhere. And part of it has come from not putting more money in my emergency fund. Part of it has come from not putting as much into my gifting fund because I had enough to cover a few gifts, so not fully funding it. And a big part of it has come out of my travel budget. Now, I do realize that me sitting here going, I'm just not sure I'm going to be able to squeeze out that other international trip is very much first world problems, yes? I do have a small trip to Dubai just for a few days around my birthday that I've already paid for and is already costed, so I don't need to worry about that. But the plan was to do probably a couple of trips during the summer, and I haven't decided yet where I wanted those to be. But given that a lot of the money that would have gone into these different funds is now being redistributed, I think it's time to maybe adjust my expectations in that regard. I am hoping to still manage an international trip, just to go on a nice holiday, but I'm not sure how far and to what extent I can do that, mostly because I'm having a lot of trouble figuring out where I want to go. Initially, my friend that lost her father, her and I were discussing at the end of last year, potentially meeting up and doing kind of a historical or a tour of historical sites, so maybe meeting up in like Italy and doing some of the Roman sites and maybe visiting Pompeii and things like that, and then doing a hopper over to Greece, maybe doing Athens and seeing some of the ruins there. And she wanted to hike Hadrian's Wall, so she was thinking of maybe meeting me in one place and maybe on the way back stopping in England. She wasn't sure, but obviously now those plans have changed naturally. I was still considering Athens. I'm looking at prices right now. It's just a case if I can afford it. Obviously the summer is high season. Now I'm quite lucky in that my summer holidays start before most of the British ones. The British school holidays tend to start kind of mid-July-ish, maybe slightly later. Whereas I have a little bit more time. So if I place the holiday early in my summer, then it'll still be kind of mid to high range, but it won't be absolutely peak, I don't think, if I do a kind of European break at least. But I was looking, it's like I can get a decent flight to somewhere like Ireland because I've been thinking of going there, but the hotels in Dublin were so expensive, there's just no way. I'm still considering Athens because I can get a flight that does a connect in Turkey that isn't too bad on the timing, but I keep going back and forth. There are some cheap flights to India, but I don't think I fancy that for this summer. And if I go further east, because there are some other flights, I'm going to be treading ground I've already done. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I was kind of hoping to go somewhere new. So if I go to like Malaysia or Thailand, because I used to live in China and I used to live in Japan, I've been to those places before. Like I say, very first world problems, I realise. Athens is currently the front runner for me, but I'm not sold on anything right now. I was looking at the Greek islands and it's just a case of balancing, okay, what dates would be cheaper? How much are the flights, how much the accommodation? Because generally if one is cheap, the other is more expensive. And I'm struggling to have it all meet in what I have saved up so far. So I'm gonna keep looking. If you've got any suggestions, let me know. But that's kind of where I am with that, and it's probably going to have to be, if I want to do an international trip, I'm gonna have to go on the cheaper side and maybe adjust the location I was going to go to for now. The only other kind of financial thing that happened this month was a bit weird. You might remember a couple of update videos ago, I was really excited that my credit score had gone up, and it was up to like 844, I think it was, in the 840s, whatever it was. And for no reason at all, it's gone down. It's gone down by like 66 points. And I don't understand why, because nothing on the account has changed. Like I haven't changed any of the accounts themselves. I haven't closed anything. I haven't missed a payment. I haven't used anything. So I just don't get it. The only thing I can think of is maybe the fact that I haven't used it, and we're perhaps hitting the point at which they say, well, there's not enough data to know if you're doing it responsibly, which I get why. I get that you need to use credit in order for them to know that they can trust you using credit. But man, it's irritating, and I feel like it encourages bad behavior. But I'm not sure really what I can do about that. I put my sister's birthday gift onto my credit card, which was a small payment, and now I'm considering leaving that payment until next month because it was small. It's not like I'm going to lose a lot of money on it for interest or whatever. But by leaving it there a bit longer and then paying it off, it might at least register as a purchase that I took care of. I don't know. Because I don't really have anything else that I can put onto that card as a regular payment. I mean, I suppose I could switch over. I've got my Spotify subscription. I suppose I could switch that over to my credit card so there's a regular payment coming off, but it's literally £10. So I don't know if that would be worthwhile, if it would have an impact. We'll see what my credit score does. So if I leave that charge on long enough for it to kind of register and then pay it off, and it does something funky to my credit score, then I won't do that again and it will recover fairly quickly. And if it helps, then I'll maybe look at switching my subscriptions over to my credit card. But you guys have seen my budget. I spend all of £13 on subscriptions. So I'm not sure how much it can do, but we'll give it a go. I did call the company thinking, not call, I don't call. I'm not of the generation that uses phones voluntarily. I did email the company and say like, hey, I realized that these factors can affect credit score. but I've checked these factors and none of them apply to me. I haven't done any of these things. Could you tell me why my credit score has gone down by 66 points? And I got a very generic boilerplate email back saying, oh, we understand that when your credit score goes down, it can be a little worrying, but have you checked these factors? And I was like, the factors that I told you at the beginning of my email, I checked and weren't different. Those factors, yes, I've checked them. So that was not helpful at all. So I got no idea what's going on there. But that's where we are. And I hope your month has been going well. Please fill me in down below about what you've been up to. And by the next monthly budget, when do I get paid next? Kind of mid-April, yeah? I'll probably have filed my taxes at that point, so I'll be able to let you know how it goes. But if not by next time, then certainly by the next check-in. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.